hear Marianne humming. We were harmonizing before the show started. Welcome, everybody. It is What the Frick Live, Friday, September the 2nd, 2022. It's another What the Frick is going on Friday. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We have Mr. Ryder Lee from Raised by Giants on with us tonight. Hey, Ryder, how are you doing?
What's up, Emily? Thanks so much for inviting me back on. I'm excited for part 2 with Brett. The first one was amazing, and we kind of have a little bet going on here, so it's going to be...
I'm the mediator.
No, it's going to be amazing.
Marianne mediated before we went live. Marianne, who do you think is going to win tonight?
I have no idea. We'll see. We'll see.
We got some questions for Brett, and I'm going to bring him on here in a second. But if you're tuning in for the first time, please, not first time, anytime, actually, share this out. It helps the show. It helps our guests. It helps our network. We're live on Facebook, Rumble, and Odysee. If you do not have Rumble and Odysee, I highly suggest that you subscribe to them. Ryder, you're on Odysee. Are you on Rumble?
I am on Rumble, but I don't really know exactly how Rumble works. So I think I have some of my shows on Rumble, but mostly on Odysee and Rokfin.
Okay.
And YouTube. Obviously, I post on YouTube twice a week.
I have your links in our description too. So Raised by Giants with Writers. But I'm telling everybody, censorship is terrible. Facebook is dying, dead, metaverse. So everybody needs to join the game here in hopping over to Odysee or Rumble, because those are the two platforms I like the most. That seems like the less censorship. So
yeah, Facebook just banned me for 24 hours for posting nothing that had anything to do with what they banned me for, what they said that they were banning me for. So it was ridiculous. I was just posting a story to promote my show, because that's basically all that I use Facebook for, is to just promote my show on YouTube. And they hit me with a 24-hour ban. I wasn't able to message anybody. I wasn't able to post, comment, nothing. And I'd never heard of anybody ever being banned from Messenger. Yeah.
So
because normally that's how people use to communicate with people. You know what I mean? Like, and I've heard of people getting banned for a long time, but not for not being able to message. That's like a whole new level of it, you know? So.
Well, everybody, please go subscribe or download the apps, Rumble and Odysee, both. I'll put some links up here during the show tonight. And thank you for everybody tuning in. If you have a question or anything for our guests, please ask. Also, I want to just highlight this. I did put our Rumble link in the comment section for part 1. So please click on that link. Laura Pill is joining in now. Thank you, Laura, for tuning in. Please click that link if you missed our part 1. So I'm going to do what I did the last time, because I love this video so much, and I've never allowed a guest to introduce themselves, but I did the first time. I'm going to play some of this video, and I'm going to bring Brett on. He's awesome. He's amazing. He has a great personality and an amazing testimony, even though it's a little sketch, but anyway, here we go. Here is our guest tonight.
Johnson, former United States Most Wanted cyber criminal, now good guy. That's right, good guy. Or as the United States Secret Service put it, the original Internet Godfather. Well, Brett, how did you get that title? Well, don't worry. I'll tell you how I get that title. Hell, I do it every single week. 39 felonies, a place on the United States Most Wanted list. I escaped from prison. Did you really escape from prison? Yes, I really did escape from prison. And I also built and ran the first organized cybercrime community. It was called ShadowCrew. It was a precursor of today's darknet and darknet markets. It laid the foundation for the way modern cybercrime channels operate today. And you better believe your ass that will land you in prison, deservedly so. Now, look, there's a whole story behind all that. We don't have time for that today, because today, right now, it's time for the Brett Johnson Show, today's episode.
Brett, I love that. I absolutely love it.
Well, you got to have energy.
You do.
Absolutely.
You do. So I'm going to jump right into this, because we went a little bit longer than what I usually do in the beginning.
All right.
And we got a lot to cover. We talked a little bit about this before we went live. So and again, I'm just going to restate this. If you did not watch part 1, the link is in the chat. Click on that link. You can go watch it on Rumble.
Someone didn't watch part 1.
I know. Shame on them. Shame on them. So I want to get down dirty here. Secret Service. What did you do in the Secret Service? What was your job? And I know that you kind of, schemed them too. So what happened there?
Kinda. She said, I know you kind of schemed them too. Yeah,
I
kinda.
don't want to give out the
Do we use colorful language in this show or not?
It's what substitute the F word for just put frick in there.
All right, so I fricked over the frick Secret Service frick. So I was arrested. ShadowCrew makes the front cover of Forbes, August of 2004. Headline: Who's stealing your identity? October 26, 2004, United States Secret Service, they arrested 33 people, 6 countries, 6 hours. I'm the only guy publicly mentioned as getting away. They picked me up February 8th, 2005, and they give me a job. My job was as an informant and a consultant. So I taught the Secret Service the dynamics of online fraud, how cyber criminals act, operate, their mentality, everything else, and went out and found people to set up and get convicted and send them to prison. What they didn't know is that I continued to break the law from inside Secret Service offices for the next 10 months until they found out about it. Then I took off on a cross-country crime spree, stole $600,000 in the space of 4 months, made the United States Most Wanted list, went to Disney World, got arrested, sent to prison, escaped from prison, got arrested again, served out my time.
So during this time, Brett, you were in communication with Daniel David Rigmain during that period of time while working for the Secret Service, correct?
I'm the gentleman that taught Daniel Rigmain how to commit the crime because I invented tax return identity theft, and I also set him up to be arrested, all while working for the United States Secret Service. Yes.
So but you kind of went on the run in the middle of like talking to him, right? So
well, actually, we had already built the case up against him. So what happens is it was a 10-month investigation before I took off on this crime spree. It was a 10-month investigation. I encountered Daniel Rigmain probably 2 to 3 months into that investigation. He was looking on how to make money. He was unable to really profit any on the forums at all. So I had the Secret Service there, and they were like, well, I was like, hey, can I teach him how to do this? And they're like, we have to get permission. So they went to the prosecutor's office and finally got permission. And I taught Daniel Rigmain how to do tax return identity theft, and even sent him like 35 or 36 prepaid debit cards to commit that crime as well. Sent those cards to a drop address.
I cut out for a minute. Is this while you're in the Secret Service?
It is, yeah.
Oh,
so I taught him how to do the crime and then set him up to be arrested as well.
Okay.
So you kind of set him up to be arrested whenever he got arrested, trying to get the $168,000 that the Secret Service or the FBI was setting him up to get. Right?
Well, that happened later on. So he was initially the drop address was initially identified very quickly. I'm not sure what all it talks about in Web of Make Believe because I only looked at my parts of that show. So, just being honest, I was like, shit, I don't care who he is. I would watch my part. So I watched my part of the show.
I hate watching myself, so kudos to you for doing that. That's hilarious.
Yes, we identified his drop address. It was a controlled delivery. I identified that pretty quickly. Now, of course, Rigmain, once I go on the run, he goes off the grid for a while, and they find him using a Stingray device. Ultimately, is what happens at that point. But he was able to automate that type of crime. I did all of my tax returns manually, but Rigmain and a few other people also were able to automate that, and they were very effective in those types of attacks.
I have a question about that because in the Web of Make Believe, he used a card and Verizon card, or There's what was it? What was that? The telephone company that all the government people were using too. It's T-Mobile. T-Mobile. Was he using T-Mobile too, and then went over to Verizon?
I don't know if he was or not, but ShadowCrew is the group that got the Secret Service to stop using T-Mobile.
Okay. Well, what do they use now? Do you know?
They did switch over to Verizon. I'm not sure what they're at now, but what happens is one of my guys, his name was Enhance. This was the early to mid 2000s. He's the guy that published Paris Hilton's phone contact list online, but he also intercepted text messages of the Secret Service. He was not a hacker at all. He simply worked for T-Mobile and got all those text messages and the phone contact list. Well, they did end up arresting him, but that did prompt the Secret Service to stop using T-Mobile at that point.
So whenever it comes to the Stingray device, because I kind of wanted to get into this the last time that you're on in
Sure.
part one, because the Stingray was not only what captured or located Daniel Rigmain, but also what contacted you and what got you, correct?
Right.
How did that happen?
So what happens is we used to teach people. ShadowCrew is all about training people how to be correct criminals. And one of the lessons that we taught is, hey, if you ever go on the run, you'd never contact anyone that you know. You stop all the behaviors that you're known for, and you adopt completely new behaviors and go like that. Go someplace that's not even associated with you. Well, I followed all of that correctly, except I kept contact with my mother. I had sent my mom a cell phone and like $3,000 cash. She didn't have any money at all, so I sent her like $3,000 cash in the mail. Sent her a burner phone. They intercepted that mail. It was sent by FedEx. They intercepted that, got the phone number, then used a Stingray device to track me down to Orlando, Florida, where I was at Disney World. Yeah, that's not a friendly euphemism. I was in the house.
You had no idea that they were using this kind of technology either.
I did.
So you did, and you still. Wow, look at you.
So when I started to work with the Secret Service, they were very kind, and they told me that all about the Stingray device. That they had one at the Columbia, South Carolina field office, and they bragged about it. What happened? They used to tell this story that there was this drug dealer in Columbia, South Carolina, and Brad Smith was the lead agent on the case at that point in time. And so he calls this drug dealer up, and he's telling the drug dealer, hey, just come on in. It's not going to be that bad. You'll ROR, you'll go back home, then you'll show back up. And the drug dealer was like, basically, frick you, man. You ain't going to find me, frick you. And then Brad Smith tells him, see you in 30 minutes. So they crack open the Stingray, locate the guy within 7 feet. Knock, 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 knock. We know you're in there. So he pops out, and they arrest him at that point. So they did have that Stingray device at that point in time. They didn't share a lot of its capabilities, but I mean, it's a very effective device. Even back then, it was very effective. It captures all the phone numbers in the area, intercepts text messages.
Well, I have the video up here. Let me just play the minute of it, and so people can understand what we're talking about. And if you have not, I have the trailer pulled up too. If we're going to play this towards the end, Web of Make Believe on Netflix, Death Lies, and the Internet. Y'all need to go watch that. Brett is featured on episode 5 and 6, which is the Stingray part 1, part 2. And my mind went, which I'm a conspiracy theorist, whatever you want to say it, and it was like when I was watching it freaked me out. So I'll play this little video. Everybody can still hear us talk, by the way. So Here we go.
Here, or at one of these. It doesn't matter. This can find you. The common name, Stingray. Technically, a cell site simulator. First developed for military use, it's made its way into local law enforcement. It can track a person down to the room they're in if they have their cell phone on them. Stingrays turn these into homing devices, and that's just the beginning.
These are tracking devices. This is emitting a signal. This is GPS.
Mike Mino with the North Carolina branch of the ACLU has been watching the spread of Stingrays for years.
It's my understanding that the software that a lot of these devices use is capable of capturing things like your text messages.
He's got a porn mustache.
And you know for sure they're getting people's location.
Here's how it works.
Can't look at him right now.
Always trying to connect to nearby cell towers.
Creeper stash.
Creeper stash.
Yeah, he knows all about stalking. Riley
It
is
tricks
all
And-
about this.
Andy's got a
the
van.
nearest cell tower,
And he's got
phones
a van.
connect to the Stingray, and police can access a range of personal information. But they don't just get intel on one phone.
This is crazy
Every
here.
phone
This
nearby
is crazy.
forced to divert to the Stingray. Calls are passed on to a real cell tower.
I gotta
Data
tell y'all
still
something I
stays
did though.
with police.
When you ask them why they're using it, they'll say, well, we're targeting certain individuals. But the nature of the technology is so expansive that you cannot use this without countless innocent people having their data captured as well.
The I team has learned.
So there we go. I'm going to tell you all something. My Wi-Fi name was FBI surveillance.
Ah,
I did that for a little bit just to freak people out. But this mentions something. This is going to get into a topic here. Military use. It started out with military.
sure.
Now we have all this darknet, dark web. Who started the darknet, dark web?
So the Tor browser stands for the Onion Router. It was started by the United States Navy. Is who started that. So the U.S. Navy starts it, and they build the Tor browser. So think of the Tor browser. It's called the Onion Router for a reason. So Onion, you take your IP address, and then you wrap it in layers of different IP numbers, encrypted. And the problem is that you put so many layers on it, like an onion, like Shrek. You put so many layers on it that it becomes very difficult and very costly to figure out where the original IP is or what the original IP is.
No.
Yeah, but
No. We have a bet. Ryder and I have a bet going on, and I just won.
No, you didn't. No, you
Yes, I
did
did.
not.
Yeah.
No, you did not.
So it
Because,
starts.
listen, there's 3 different dark webs, right? There's
Yeah,
Tor.
but who
There's
started?
the I2P and Freenet. Just
Tor
because
came
the
from-
military
The only
created.
thing people use is Tor.
Tor.
Let's be honest.
Yeah,
You got
but-
the other two, yeah, but Tor.
Yeah, but the very
What?
first one was actually created by a man named hold on, let me find it.
Ryder,
Named
you
by
lost.
Ian Clark, right?
Yeah,
That
Ian Clark.
started in the 2000s with the release of Freenet. That was the very first
That's not the dark.
dark
That's not
web.
the dark web.
Where does the dark web get its name? Walk with me. Where does it get its name? You can wiki it. So it gets its name from the criminal activity that takes part on it. So the Tor browser was not built for criminals to use. It was built for intelligence operatives to communicate with each other without being identified by whatever country they were in. It then goes open source. The United States Navy puts it out there so that people behind different countries' firewalls can access the real internet, and so that whistleblowers can get information out without being identified. What they forgot to remember is that if a technology can be used to either remain anonymous or to effectively launder money, the first adoptees are criminals. Just look back at the beeper days, all right? Criminals love the damn things. So what happens is the Tor browser, you're right, there were a couple of other things out there beforehand, but the Tor browser is the advent of the dark web because mass amounts of people, criminals, started to flock to it and use it. It had less friction and a higher adoption rate than those other things at that point in time.
Yeah,
That's
but-
another reason that you have Telegram now is
lost,
basically
Ryder.
coming on big time with criminal involvement because of less friction, ease of use, and it's encrypted privacy, and it's very anti-law enforcement.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Just because the military created the communications device that works with the dark web doesn't mean that they created the dark web, right?
No, criminals created the dark web, and that's
But
where it
they-
gets its name.
But it came
So
from
the dark
dark
web,
net.
it's called it's specifically called the dark web because
the
of
criminal
the criminal
activity.
activity that takes place on it. That's the only. It's not because it's in the shadows. It's
But the
called the dark
military
web
led the
because
way
of the
to
criminal
that,
activity.
though.
The military builds the product. All right.
Right.
It goes open source.
Started it.
The
That's not-
EFF starts
started
to fund it. And today, even today, the top funder of the Tor browser is the United States government.
Dark
Right.
web.
So,
Sure.
and the reason it's called the dark web is because you have all of this dark activity, not hidden activity, but dark criminal activity that goes in. Now, let's be honest. There's a whole lot of legal stuff that's on Tor. All right. A whole lot, but it gets that term dark in relation to its criminal activity. You can't say that about the other things that were out there prior to Tor, because you did not have mass adoption of criminals at that point, at that level. They were still using the surface web. It's only when Tor, not only when Tor comes in, but when Tor becomes usable, because when Tor first goes open source, it's not usable at all. At all. It's so slow you can't do anything. And over time, you get enough users, enough nodes that are out there that it speeds up to a point where you can effectively use it to remain anonymous as long as you properly know how to use it.
So basically, the military created this secret web of communications device, and then the criminals adopted it. Right?
Yeah. Now the problem, and here's the issue with this. The problem with
this, I might have just lost. Hold on, Brad. You're supposed to be on my team.
No, the military, the U.S. Navy creates that.
Hold on. So if yes, okay, if somebody comes out and just asks the question, who created the darknet, or who led way to the darknet, what would be your first answer?
The U.S. Navy.
There we go.
Because they created the Tor browser. Now, the interesting thing is that over the years, that definition of the dark web has changed, because you've got Discord, because you've got Telegram, you've got these different channels, Wicker, things like that, that are now incorporated by criminals as well. So it's expanded past that definition of specifically the Tor browser being associated with the dark web today.
So who's in control of the dark web
All kinds of people.
Right now? Is it the U.S. military, or
No,
is it
no. It's so who owns the nodes would be the question. All right, and you can track down a lot of the nodes. There's a lot of U.S. libraries that have nodes. Military has some. Law enforcement has some. Private individuals have nodes that they're operating as well. It just depends on who owns a majority of nodes. So how would you be able to track an individual using Tor? All right, if they're using Tor. And the answer is you would need to control a lot of nodes to do that. That's one answer. All right. So you would have to control enough nodes that you're able to see the node that they're using coming in and the node that they're using going out. Wow. And at that point, you can start to identify that individual. Now that's a really difficult way. We saw Carnegie Mellon do that in the case of Max Butler. It cost him $1 million back in 2000. I think that was 2006 that he gets arrested. Cost him $1 million just to launch that attack, to identify just that one person at that point. Okay. So, but there are other ways. Law enforcement tends to use other ways to identify people on Tor, because most idiots don't know how to use it properly. They'll have a surface web page open at the same time, and they'll bounce back and forth. They'll download some file from Tor, and when you download file, it closes your real IP address. They'll have Java turned on. So we've seen a couple of instances on the Tor project that it used to be when you would download Tor, Java would be turned off automatically. We've seen a couple of instances where those updates have been launched and Java has mysteriously been turned on with the update. So that exposes your IP. It's all about, do you properly know how to use it? And that's one of the reasons that things like Telegram, Discord, Wicker, and these other channels or other platforms have become more and more popular, because the ease of use is higher, friction is much lower, it's all encrypted, everything else.
So this goes into anonymous a little bit, and VPNs and stuff. Are VPNs really? I think that you can track any VPN. Am I wrong, or what?
Yeah. You see the advertisements that VPNs don't report.
They do.
They do. They all do. They all do. Matter of fact, most people these days, it used to be the advice used to be use a VPN to access the important accounts. This year, finally, thank God, they've gotten rid of that advice, saying, hey, VPN is pretty much useless. Don't worry about that shit at all.
So anonymous, V for Vendetta, because Ryder, we were talking
I do like that film. When I was on the run, I saw that thing like 30 times.
So
it's a good movie.
It's a really good movie.
With the dark web or darknet, however you want to call it, and we know the military started Tor. Is anybody really truly anonymous on there then?
Sure, you can, if you can effectively use it. I mean, there's a lot of difficulty that law enforcement has with identifying where servers are. or where someone is or who someone is if they know how to properly use it. But time and time again, we've seen that a lot of users, especially English-speaking users, they get in there and they blab. They talk a lot. They talk about where they shop, where they eat, what they've bought. On Telegram, you see people that will actually post snapshots of bank accounts that they've taken over, things like that. It's very easy to use what's called OSINT, open source intelligence, to start to identify these people. It's not rocket science most of the time to when someone's been identified. You take Ross Ulbricht, for example. He's the guy who ran Silk Road. Ross Ulbricht was identified because he posted his email address on a Talk Gold forum talking about he needs help with a dark web marketplace. So it was very easy to start tracking that guy. And you think about it, you've got internet scrapers out there that scrape all the data. You've got computers that go through the data. They look for keywords, things like that. It's very easy to start identifying and making these connections at that point.
Now, Russ Ulbricht was separate from the dark web, right? Silk Road was a separate entity from the dark web that created its own kind of marketplace. And whenever he got caught in 2013, from my understanding, that's kind of when the military kind of stepped in, and the national security aspect of this whole thing kind of stepped in and took over the dark web. Am I correct on that or no?
Excuse me. So ShadowCrew is a precursor of today's dark web and dark web marketplaces. Silk Road 1 was the first viable dark web marketplace. It ran on Tor. There were some other startups before that, but the first successful one was Silk Road. Now, the stuff about the military taking it over, there were once Silk Road gets shut down, there were several other marketplaces that pop up and try to take its place. That's ShadowCrew right there that you're showing.
Yeah.
But so think, Ross Ulbricht, he's arrested at the public library in San Francisco. He was motivated strictly by ideology. He thought he was going to actually change the world by running a drug trafficking site. He was not difficult to identify at all. So they had identified him. They got his laptop. On his laptop, at that point in time, he had $24 million worth of Bitcoin. Now I think that is going off at, that at one point they moved up $1.2 billion in Bitcoin from that Ross Ulbricht wallet.
Yeah, it was a
was
lot.
The value. It was a ton, or 4.1 or something like that was what it was. But so they arrest him. They give him 2 life sentences plus 40 years because he tried to have people murdered while he was running the site. So they shut that down. The next one that pops up is Silk Road 2. Then Sheep Marketplace goes from there, Evolution Marketplace, Alpha Bay, and you have a host of other names that pop up. What you tend to see on dark web or criminal enterprises is you have one guy that's considered the head of everything. So the head credit card seller. You'll have different sellers, but there's like one guy that's top of the heap. And law enforcement really likes to target that guy. And as soon as they put that guy in prison for 20 years, whoever's next in line will assume that role for, 18 months until he gets arrested. Then it's the next guy's time.
But you were that guy though, and I was that guy. You kind of escaped that for a little bit though.
I did. We ran so ShadowCrew, like I said, was the start of all of that. If you think about how modern cybercrime starts, it starts with 3 sites: Counterfeit Library, ShadowCrew, and then ultimately Carter Planet. I ran both Counterfeit Library and ShadowCrew. And the 39 felonies that I was convicted of, that I pled guilty to, were basically refining modern cybercrime as we know it. I'm kind of that. There's a reason I'm called the godfather of the internet, or you could even say the father of modern cybercrime if you wanted to say that kind of crap. Nothing to be proud of, but for a little boy from Kentucky,
I would say you're from Kentucky. Come on, Hazard. He's from y'all. I'm in Kentucky, y'all, and I'll tell you this: with Hazard, Kentucky specifically, I'm more scared going through Hazard, Kentucky, than I'm ever in like the roughest part of Detroit.
We're different. We're different.
You go missing in Hazard, you'll never be found. Like that's it. You're done.
We're just different.
So, but that's what made it so enjoyable, though. You were the breath of fresh air. I said this on part 1 in the Netflix show. because I'm like freaking out with each episode. Then it comes to episode 5, and you're talking about Beanie Babies, and you're in Hazard. So, and you talked about your mom because you have a family that's kind of schemed and did
Kind of,
things.
yeah, kind of.
I'm being nice a little bit.
You're being really nice. My mom, she, Marianne's not heard this, but I committed my first crime when I was 10, shoplifting food for me and my sister. My mom finds out. She joins us, and it kept going from there. And my sister, she grows up to be an honest person. Not that she doesn't have difficulties. She, because of the abuse in that environment, she's got a lot of anger, relationship issues, things like that. But me, I'm the kid that kept on going. So I got involved with not only my mom, but everyone on that side of the family were criminals. I grew up knowing how to do insurance fraud, drug trafficking, illegally strip mining coal, breaking and entering, all these different types of things until I branched off on my own and ultimately went into internet crime. So yeah, it's not like I didn't have the foundation laid there if I decided to go into that field as a career.
Yeah, but it takes somebody super creative, even in the Southeast Kentucky here, to go into internet crime during this time because not very many people knew about the internet. It was up and coming. So
I'm a very
all criminals are super creative at your level.
Yeah, I am a honestly, I joke about it a lot and everything else. I am an extremely effective attacker. I
believe you when you say that. Marianne's been
scary.
Super quiet, and I want to know if Marianne wants to ask Mr. Brett. I have to.
She has been quiet.
Well, I have to feel like I have to call you Mr. Brett Johnson. Why?
Mr.
I don't
Johnson.
know. I know, like Mr. Like, you have any questions for him, or you want to ask him something real quick?
Yeah. So, what is it that you do now?
What do I do now? Now that's an excellent question. Turns out, most of the time the story ends for the bad guy that he's in prison, he gets out, breaks the law again, and goes back and forth. And I did some of that. But because of the FBI, because of my wife, and then because of my sister, I was able to turn my life around. Today, I'm an ambassador for AARP. I travel to different states. I was in Hawaii 2 weeks ago talking to their members about how to protect themselves from cybercrime. So I'm an ambassador for AARP. I'm the first chief criminal officer on the planet for Arcos Labs. Arcos Labs is one of the fastest growing security companies in the world. They handle bot protection, fraud detection, things like that. The founder, Kevin Goschalk, he had an idea to start a new C-level position, and I am that chief criminal officer. So I talk to companies and potential clients about the way that crime operates, the way their attacks, the attack vector, the landscape, what that looks like, how they're attacked, how to prevent those types of attacks. That's my job there. I work with the FBI, teach at Quantico some. I speak across the planet, consult across the planet. Honestly, I lead a blessed life that I say it, and it hits me every time I say it. I lead a blessed life that I really don't deserve, but that I'm damn grateful to have.
That's amazing.
I want to know what your wife thought about all this, or
So I'll tell you that story. I was
okay.
I was dating the same women that I had been dating. It's like I had a big sign say, send me back to prison whenever. I got on one of these dating sites, and my wife now, she saw the picture that I had taken, and she sends me a message. She's like, "Why aren't you smiling?" Because I had that prison pose, that. So I had that prison pose, and she was like, "Why aren't you smiling?" I'm like, "That is my happy face." And she's like, "Nah," and I'm like, "Yeah." So we ended up meeting in Destin, Florida. And 10 minutes into the conversation, we're sitting on the beach. 10 minutes into the conversation, she looks at me and she was like, "So what's the worst thing you've ever done?" And I'm like, "Well, I just got out of federal prison." And she's like, "Nah, what's the worst thing?" And I'm like,
I believe you either.
"I just got out of federal prison." So I told her the whole story. We had dinner that night at McGuire's. It's a pub that's down in Destin. And at the end of the night, I told her, I was like, "Look," I said, "I like you. I'd like to see you again. You're going to go home and you'll look me up." And she's like, "I won't do that." And I was like, "Yes, you will. You'll look me up." Well, she went home and looked me up. And I had told her, I said, "If you want to see me again, I'd like to see you." And she talked it over with her oldest son. He was in the Navy. And he was like, "Well, he served his time. If he seems all right, why not?" So that's where it starts, is right there. And I was very blessed.
Ryder, you have a follow-up question because I know what I know what I want to go into a little bit here after if you have a question.
And you said my story was sketch, Emily.
Well, you have a romantic side to this too that I know a little bit more details.
I love it. I love that.
I know a little bit more details about your romantic side, but we're not going to go. We don't have time to go there. But I will tell you, the lady in the limo. Yeah. I loved her attitude about it all.
Yeah, she was cool. She was cool.
So,
that was messed up.
Another time, but Ryder, you have a question, and I know what I want to talk about next. If you want.
Yeah, I kind of want to get into a little bit of McAfee because I just watched that documentary on Netflix about McAfee. I don't know if you watched that documentary or not.
I have not had a chance to watch it yet. No.
It's very interesting in the way that he was a manipulator and basically kind of just making up these fantastical stories to kind of take these, these documentary filmmakers on a journey.
Right.
So what do you think was actually going on with McAfee? Do you think that McAfee actually had some of the information that he was claiming to have about the U.S. government and the government of Belize? And
by the way, everybody, we're talking about John McAfee. Like he had the McAfee. What is it called? McAfee antivirus protection on all your computers. So if
made $1 billion on it,
yeah,
John McAfee. Yeah.
So okay, go ahead, Brett. I wanted our viewers or listeners to know.
So he was, he became this extremely rich person, first antivirus company, and made a ton of money on it. And then over time, at one point, he decides to live like Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now in the jungle. So he does that. He was the one thing I will say about John McAfee is I have respect for the man because he lived his life. He didn't answer to anyone at all. He lived his life. And if more people did that, not being beholden to what they think society expects of them, but just doing their thing, I think the world would be a much more interesting place to live in. It might be a much more dangerous place to live in too, but it would be more interesting. My personal opinion is that certainly a lot of the antics of McAfee, he faked a heart attack at one point.
Well, he faked being had a stroke or something too to disguise himself.
Yeah, that's John McAfee. So when his wife or whoever it was said that he may still be alive, and she gave that camera the little wink, that does certainly lay the seed in there. I've got to tell you, I think the guy's dead. He was, he had got to the point where he was not looking very healthy to begin with. He was using massive amounts of drugs, drinking alcohol, everything else. I think he got to the point where it just wasn't worth it to him anymore.
Well, he had that tattoo whacked.
Yeah.
But he was adamant though on all the social media platforms, videos, all this stuff that he would never suicide himself. He would never kill himself.
Sure.
So
another interesting thing is his ex-girlfriend, basically, because she was kind of involved with the cartel, according to this next Netflix documentary. Who knows if you can trust to the next Netflix documentary? But she basically said that she called her pimp because she was a prostitute, and then the pimp came to Belize and basically wanted her to kill McAfee for the cartel. Yeah.
And maybe not. The thing is that, a lot of people say they would never kill themselves. When you're looking at spending the rest of your life in prison and you've been that man who has lived his life, things change. Things change. He was already unhealthy as it was.
But money
he would have
helps
never
too.
gotten his ass. Money helps, but he would have never gotten his ass out of prison. Never.
Not even if he paid enough people to do a dead man switch.
No, he was. Well, you're not going to do that stuff in the Fed system. Once you're indicted, something's going to happen. All right. I think it's unfortunate that he ended in that way. I truly do. He got to the point where he was hawking questionable cryptocurrencies. People were bitching about it. He was looking at potential cases coming against him for that kind of stuff. Of course, he had the tax evasion stuff that was going on. I think that once he gets arrested, that writing was on the wall at that point. This dead man switch, if he had it, it would have been popped out by now.
Well,
he just didn't. He said it. He just didn't. That's John McAfee. John
I
McAfee.
know he's a man of mysteries to me.
But he was also the guy that said a lot of stuff. Then it just sometimes it was and sometimes it wasn't.
So the dead man switch makes me think of Jeffrey Epstein, and then we have the Weinstein, whatever.
Right.
But you are getting ready to drop a bomb on Liechtenstein or Liechtenstein, however you want to say it.
Liechtenstein, yeah. So
Liechtenstein, and Forbes was at your house, or they were filming one of your interviews or something this week. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Sure. So I've got the Brett Johnson Show on YouTube, episode 45. Forbes is making a documentary about Ilya Liechtenstein. Ilya Liechtenstein is the son of Eugene Liechtenstein, a real estate broker out of Chicago, Illinois. But Ilya was arrested. Him and his wife, Heather Morgan, were arrested February of this year and charged with trying to launder $4.5 billion in stolen bitcoins. Those stolen bitcoins came from the Bitfinex theft of 2016. No one has been charged for that theft yet. Ilya and his wife have simply been charged for laundering the currency. What I found out, and I'm the only person in the world that knew it, was that Ilya's father had hacked into a Secret Service computer way back in 2005. The Secret Service computer that I was using, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
So this show talks about how that happened, how that was covered up, and how I was the only person that came to know that. So it's a very effective show, and it's got a lot of explosive information on there. It's something that the arresting agents of the FBI did not know because the Secret Service had deleted the documents, and they don't share information with the FBI. So the arresting agents of the FBI didn't know that Ilya's dad was this established cyber criminal, and the types of crimes that he committed were the exact same types of crimes that Bitfinex got hit with. So whether he did it or not, don't know, but I am confident that the justice system will find out the truth at the end of the day.
I have a question for you about Bitcoin.
Sure.
I don't know if I asked you in this part one or not, but
Okay.
I've seen several videos on different platforms. They say if we finally understand who created Bitcoin, or the person that created the idea behind Bitcoin, because they're using this anonymous name or anonymous person, that Bitcoin would go to zero within like 10 seconds or less. Do you know anything about that? Did I ask you this in part one?
You
can't
did,
remember.
and I
Okay.
had shared that certainly there are government elements that know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. I saw some emails that indicated such. It crashing to zero, now over time, it certainly could. I have no doubt about that at all. If you think about it, so I think it's like 60% of all Bitcoin is owned by 40 different wallets. 60%, 98%. I think it's like 80 or 90% of all Bitcoin overall is controlled by 2% of the wallets. So it's just, there are these weird numbers of, a very few amount of people that control the value of that cryptocurrency. It was created as kind of this something that would be available to everyone, and you wouldn't have these, one person owning this massive amount. And it didn't turn out that way. And that tends to be on paper, in theory, the way that cryptocurrency is supposed to operate. But you have these people that come in and they buy massive amounts of these tokens, and they're able to manipulate the prices of that. And that's one of the reasons that we need proper, educated regulation in the crypto verticals.
And also, I want to point this out. This is the Liechtenstein.
Yeah.
People like his birthday's 1987. So
He's
Yeah,
younger
so-
than me.
yeah, these people are young.
Yeah, and Heather had written for Forbes magazine at one point in time on crypto. She goes on to she fancies herself a rapper and changes her name. Her screen name is Razzle Khan. One of her songs is Turkish Martha Stewart.
Hold on, I gotta look this
song up. You gotta listen to this shit.
Hold on. I'm gonna look it up. What, Turkish Martha Stewart is what you said?
Turkish Martha Stewart.
Oh, hopefully this is for
as bad
education.
as you would imagine.
Here it is, Turkish Martha.
Oh, it's horrible.
Y'all, this is for education.
It's not
purposes.
Dr. Dre.
Hold on, it's not coming up though. When I Turkish, it was a search thing, and I click it. Y'all talk for a moment. I'm going to find this out.
Just like you all talk. But anyway, I was this guy that I got these documents in that there are two people on the planet that had the documents, me and the guy who gave me the documents. No law enforcement agency had them. No one knew they existed at all, except for me and this other guy. This other guy who gave them to me, he didn't know what he had. I looked at it and I was like, that looks familiar. And it clicked. So that's this show here, how I got the documents, how the Secret Service had hidden the documents. Just an absolutely crazy, explosive story. I was talking to law enforcement today about it. I've talked about to different news groups today as well. It's just the episode just came out Wednesday, and it looks like it's going to gain a lot of traction, and it's going to cause a lot of just new explosive stuff coming out about this case overall.
Well, when you look at Ross Albright, right, he's kind of the one that made Bitcoin a popular currency because he was the only person that would accept, that's the only form of payment that he would accept on the dark web, correct?
Absolutely. So that's Ross. The only payment form he accepted was Bitcoin. Before Ross did that, Bitcoin really didn't have a use case. No one knew what they were going to do with it. Ross does that and basically opens the door for cyber criminals to come in and start using it to purchase drugs, criminal tools, PII, credit card numbers, things like that. And that's where it gets its start. That's why a lot of those crypto whales now, they have a definite history of crime somewhere in their background.
Well, okay, here we go. The cringe rapper stole 4.5 billion in Bitcoin. I don't think this is the video, but I listened to some of this rapping. I'm assuming this is her, so let's play like 30 seconds of it or so.
Work at dark she come alert like beer icky ooch
That's her.
icky ooch
Yo, dude. Yeah, what? I don't know. I feel like this isn't
her.
a good
That's her
commentary on crypto.
Good. That's not good. I agree with the guy. That is not good. That girl stole 4.5 billion in Bitcoin.
No. Now here's where you got to watch this. Okay. They're not charged with stealing it. No one has been charged with stealing it yet. They're charged with simply laundering it, trying to turn it into legal funds is what they're charged with, okay? No one's been charged with the theft yet, and that's hopefully what my story yesterday starts to break open, is who actually did the theft. All right, so we'll see. Hopefully it leads to some justice being enacted on those criminals that may have stolen it. Perfect day, that's exactly what happens. We'll see. It would be a nice day for me.
Where do you see our financial currency going, Brett? Because there's been talk of a financial digital-backed blockchain currency being implemented at the end of 2023. That's been, backed by a Federal Reserve chairperson that's saying that, they've already implemented a digital-backed blockchain currency in all of the banks. So is that where you see that the currency is going to be headed, that it's going to be a financial reset?
It's when you first started asking that question, where do you see currency? I was like, well, we're the Biden years. I see the currency going down right now. So that was my gut reaction to say that.
What
but
currency?
I won't say that.
There's no currency. What currency?
It's there's a definite possibility that happens, that the U.S. comes up with its own digital currency. I think that's exactly what we're heading toward, is that because it's much easier to track that. There's a reason that you have cash, and that cash presents a problem for the United States government, physical cash. And that is because you have a lot of that cash that is used to purchase things, whether it be legal things or illegal things, that is not taxed. So by creating a digital currency that's on a blockchain, you can really determine every single transaction that takes place and track all those transactions, tax all those transactions, see where the money's going, who's using it, why they're using it, what they're doing with it. The data that's collected from something like that, you talk about Stingray, that type of data is really intrusive. Not that Stingray isn't, but that type of data gets really intrusive really quickly.
It's scary. And then our U.S. dollar is not worth much anyway. How many people have tried to get rid of the U.S. dollar over the years? You had Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein. Now we got Russia.
It's
Putin.
sad. It's sad what's going on. There's a reason that crypto, that you have these people that really believe in cryptocurrencies, and I agree with the theory, the philosophy behind it, but we've yet to really see a token that's been implemented that has followed through with that hope of that theory that we are going to change the monetary system. I'm hopeful that it will happen. I think that if you let governments come in and institute their own digital currency, that it really threatens a lot of people's freedoms. I don't use drugs. I've smoked a little. I didn't like it.
You didn't inhale.
Maybe when I hit 80, I'll go into coke and heroin and hold court in the street one day. I don't know. But right now it's like, But I don't see a problem. I don't know why the government needs to know if someone wants to smoke a joint. I don't get that. I don't care what someone wants to do as long as they're not harming somebody else.
I don't think the government should be anywhere near our bank accounts. Or any of our financial, and like this 87,000 hiring of these IRS agents, which
that's scary.
Yeah, under the IRS thing, it says that they must be willing to carry a firearm, use deadly force. Like, what the heck?
It's that you're hiring 87,000 additional IRS agents, and Elon Musk, he made a very good point. Elon Musk is audited every single year. They didn't hire 87,000 agents to audit people. No, they're not going to audit people like them. They're already doing that. They're going to audit the regular people. That's what
middle class.
That's why the administration wanted to make sure they were able to track or tax any transaction of $600. We need to know if you've got $600.
This is scary.
It's very intrusive, and that's why you've got a lot of people out there that are hopeful that cryptocurrency changes that. We've just not seen, unfortunately, we've not seen that yet.
I don't think it's going to happen yet. I
think
it's got a while.
Right.
Yeah, there's just like this false belief that crypto's currency is going to get us out of the thumb of the global banking cartels, but that's not really the case, right? It's just going to be more of a tracking system and tracking every single transaction that you've ever made.
And if you think about it, so when crypto came out, people called it cryptocurrency. We're going to buy everything with it. You'll be able to go down to the store and buy whatever you want. And that was the conversation. But that conversation has changed now. That conversation, when you go on Reddit or some of these channels, people talk about, well, I own, 14,000 shares of Bitcoin. So now they're looking at it as an investment is what they're looking at. And it's not. It's meant to be used as a transfer of value, a type of currency. It's really gotten off track. It really has. And if you think about it, so far the governments have allowed it to exist. People buy Bitcoin, they buy Dogecoin, whatever those tokens are, and they think about, well, at what point do I convert it over to U.S. cash? They're always thinking about that type of mentality, and you can't do that. You have to think of it as its own currency, and we've not gotten to that point yet.
So real quick, because we got about 5 minutes left with you,
Sure.
Brett, and we're going to let you go, and then we'll close out the show, Ryder and Marianne. We talked about this before we went live, and I want to know Snowden.
I told you I didn't like Snowden.
I know. So Snowden is like a hero to a lot of us that like to expose things and put this out there in the truth. So tell us why you don't like Snowden.
I'll tell you why I don't like him. I actually respect Bradley / Chelsea Manning much more because Bradley Manning stole the information and then stuck around to stand up for it. They didn't run to Russia and become a pawn of Vlad Putin. They stood there and said, hey, I believe in what I'm saying. That's really the number one reason. Now, Snowden, hey, he was right. He was right. What he said was 100% correct. The problem is that when he said it, no one gave a damn. No one cared. The United States typically has never cared about their privacy, and that's biting them in the ass right now. I don't care.
But how about Assange?
What about Assange?
I mean, they seem to care a lot more about him than Snowden.
So, and that was the same thing that happened with the Pentagon Papers when the New York Times published those back in the day. They were really upset with the New York Times, and they wanted to prosecute the Times, and it was established that the Times was simply a journalist. The problem with Assange is that it looks like he walked Manning through how to get that data.
Oh,
if that be the case, then he's not a journalist at that point. And that's why they're going to be able to convict him. If they can prove it, and they probably can, else they wouldn't say it, he's going to serve 30 years. He's going to die in prison.
You think they'll suicide him off?
No, he'll rot away until he dies, is what will happen. He's not. I actually met Assange. Met him when I was in London.
Really?
We were at the same conference. He was remoting in, and I got to talk to him a little bit. An extremely brilliant man. Scary smart. But what will happen is he's not in very good health. He will be brought over here at some point. He will go through trial. I have no doubt he'll be convicted, and they'll give him 30 years, and he'll die probably 8 years into it, is what will happen.
Well, Marianne, you have any other question or anything you want to ask Brett here before we close out?
I just think it's great how you turned your life around. And I think that's a very powerful testimony.
Thank you, Mary. You've been quiet during this show.
I know. We talk a lot.
I haven't meant to be, but we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, because I don't think it's very common that people completely turn things around like you did. I don't think it's common. So kudos to you. That's incredible.
Well, thank you for that, but realize that I would not have been able to do it if I hadn't had people that were willing to help me. People get out of prison every single day, and the majority of those people, they really intend to do things right, and they don't have that type of support group and people that are willing to help them. We need more people willing to help people overall. So I really thank you for saying that. I do appreciate it. Marianne, Ryder, Emily, you guys are outstanding. Anytime you want me back, just let me know.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And listen, do you do any meetings and stuff in Kentucky or over this way, Appalachia?
Appalachia, that's right.
Because I want to come to those and
certainly.
meet you,
AARP will have me over there at some point, without a doubt. Okay.
Well, and Brett, real quick, I have your website up. That's the only place I could find you, like that. You're real easy to find. Like you go to other places, but real quick, if you could tell people where to find you.
Sure. So you can find me first. You can find me on YouTube, the Brett Johnson Show on YouTube. I bitch about something twice a week over there. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can go to my website, www.anglerfish.com. That's ANGLER, P as in Paul, HISH, anglerfish.com. If you guys need anything, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I bust my ass every single day to try to protect people and businesses from that guy that I used to be.
Well, we appreciate you. And everybody, please, please, please go watch over on Netflix, Web of Make Believe. Brett is in episode 5 and 6. that was one of the best series on Netflix. So thank you, Brett, so much. We wish you the best and hopefully have you on in the future. So you have a great night. All right.
Thank you all so much. Until next time.
All right. All right, Ryder, Marianne. Woohoo! That
we did fun.
That was fun. I'm sorry, Marianne. I was trying to squeeze everything in.
It's okay.
We still didn't get to QAnon. I want to talk about QAnon. And I also want to say, Marianne, who do you think won tonight? I won.
I think you did, Emily.
I won.
No.
Yeah, I won. I won.
No, she did not. She did not win.
Here's what has to happen, everybody. Ryder has to go sometime this weekend, 3 minutes and 13 seconds, because I see that number all the time, 313. And he has to go live on his personal Facebook page and talk good about What the Frick Live and myself for 3 minutes and 13 seconds.
You're going to have to listen back to that entire interview because
I'm going to message
I
Brett
believe
personally.
that it was 100% legit a tie, just like I said in the beginning of this video when we were talking.
If it's a tie, then you can both do it.
I will. No, I'm not. No, I won.
Yes, Emily. Boom.
I won.
No,
I
you did
won.
not.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Everything that you said is exactly what I said that he would say.
No.
I said
No, you
that the
didn't. You told
military
me.
said that the military created the Tor browser, but
No.
they did not create
You
the
didn't
dark
say
web,
that,
and that's
Ryder.
exactly what he said.
No.
He did not.
You told me here
the
that
military did not create the dark web. They created the service that
told me
provided the dark web.
You told me that he would
And he
not tell
said
us
that-
it was military at all.
That the criminals go
Hold
back
on,
and
I'm
listen
gonna pull
to
it up.
It
No, I'm gonna pull
that
this
the-
up. I'm
that
not
the
gonna
criminals created the dark web. That's exactly what he
Hold
said.
on. I want to sit here.
Marianne, no,
I'm going
not
to show everybody.
Marianne, did he not say that the criminals created the dark web? That
He did, but then he said the Navy did. So,
tie, baby, tie, baby.
I said the dark web was created by the military. The Navy isn't going to traffic guns. Hold on. Hold on. You say no. I said he's going to tell us it was military, and you said no. You said has nothing to do with the military. It says yes, it does. And I said just wait. I'm going to win. And you said he's not going to tell us that it's the military. I said I'm going to tell you. He's going to tell us because he's a truther. I'm reading this right now. I won.
Yeah, but then later on, you got to read the rest of the thing. I said, yes, the military might have created the Tor browser, but the military did not create the dark web, just like he said that it happened. He said that the criminals adopted the dark web based off of what the military created. The military just created the communication system that the dark web uses. It did not create the dark web itself. You know, that's the difference.
No.
Yep, absolutely.
But
Bring him back on. Bring him back on, Emily.
Anyway,
yeah, I liked him.
I do want to say something really important here. I have a really good friend of mine, Brent Hurd. He was the founder of Appalachian Unknown 2019. We've done a lot of projects together over the years. He's one of my dearest friends. I'm not going to tear up. He had a massive heart attack, had a quadruple bypass. I have the comment here in the comment sections for his GoFundMe. He is a wonderful, wonderful person inside and out. He is a hard worker. He's a truck driver, and you all know how much I love our truck drivers. He has several children, and they need your prayers and uplifting. But if you could donate anything, $5, anything will help this family. So please go into the comment section, check on the link. We are praying for you, Brett. Tracy, you are awesome too, his wife. These are really good friends of mine that has helped me also personally through some things. So please, anybody watching. And so next week we'll be back here. No Wednesday show next week. Friday show, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on RU Media Network, Odysee, and Rumble live with a guy that was on your show, Ryder, Eric J. Hecker, Antarctica.
Eric, shout out Eric, my brother.
Yeah, so we're going to find out the secret technology in Antarctica next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on RU Media Network. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Share this out. We love you. See you next time. Have a great Labor Day.